Hey, everybody, and welcome back to episode 14 of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker Radio, sponsored by CCG Poker and Paramount Social Club in beautiful Houston, Texas.
Are we going with CCG Radio?
I mean, that's what I've been, CCG Poker Radio is like.
CCG Poker Radio.
Yeah, because we have like CCG Poker TV is the YouTube side of it. So like this is like the CCG Poker Radio side.
I got it. Okay.
That
so
was
you
my
said
thought
brought
process.
to you by, I was like, I thought we were brought to you by CCG Poker TV. But that makes perfect sense now that you said that.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, Brandon, to clarify and bring other
good radio content. To our customers.
Actually, again, I want to say thank you. We have had an incredible amount of people reach out, download, listen. We're still looking for some more reviews. So wherever you are listening to this podcast, if you could take just 1 second to hit 5-star review. If you really don't like Brandon, then you could do a 4-star review. I can't imagine anybody would have any problems with me in general. So
no, I think it's the other way around.
Obviously, if there's a bad review, it's on Brandon. You're the expert. I mean, I'm just the asshat who stands here and talks about, like, engages in enlightening questions, not like I do anything else.
I'll take the blame just for job security.
Right. Yeah, but no, it's good.
I'll know in my heart that it wasn't me.
It was my fault the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyways, please subscribe, leave a review. If you could leave us an actual written review, it'd be great. But if you could just pound the 5-star review on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, those are our top 3 platforms that people are listening to right now. And it's predominantly on the Apple Podcast platform and then some Spotify's. What do you listen to podcast on, Brandon?
Apple.
Yeah.
Apple
I like Apple. Spotify is just kind of cool because I can bounce back and forth. I like the actual app better, which is why I use it. So plus,
I've just never gotten into Spotify.
I haven't either. And I will say this.
For the podcast.
They did some great, and they're getting better. They did some great marketing for me. I think I was listening to, I don't know where I saw it. Maybe it was an Instagram ad or something. Anyways, it was near 4th of July last year, and I got a Spotify notification that was like, you can be a Spotify premium member for 1 year for $17.76 because it was like July 1st. I was like, that's awesome. $17.76 for the whole year. Sign me up. So I did. And then I've been a Spotify user ever since. So that's
worked. Coming up on your $199 renewal.
Yeah, no shit.
That they hit on you.
I'll hit you guys up next week, see if I'm still listening to Spotify. I also did get a note from Spotify through my email that I am one of the top Strokes listener. That's one of my favorite bands of all time, and I really like the Strokes in general. It's like my go-to. Like if I need something in the background, that's what I listen to.
Uh-huh.
So I got a cool notification that says I'm one of the top streaming fans of the Strokes, the band. So
sweet.
My brother thought that was how he's like, oh, you're a stroke. It was great. All right, episode 14. We are going to talk all about the state of live poker in COVID-19 part 3. We've been kind of doing this once at the end of every month, and we did it at the end of April. We did it at the end of May. Nope, that's not right. We did it at the end of March. We did it at the end of April, and now we're doing it at the end of May because today is June 1st, so it's definitely the end of May.
The months are kind of merging together at this point.
Yeah, I'm having a difficult time remembering because I was like, oh, crap, it's June. It's crazy.
I know.
It's June.
Calling
June
it
1st.
Spring. Yeah, it's June 1st.
Happy June, everybody.
Yay. All right, so part 3 of State of Live Poker. So we've had some good progression in the state of live poker as a whole in the country since the last time we talked. Right? I mean, since the last time we've had, I think, in part 2, we said Paramount, the Texas room, was opening the following Wednesday or that Wednesday. We recorded it on a Monday.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday, released it on the Tuesday. I think it was either the next day or a week from then that they opened up. So now they've been open for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing 6-handed tables.
Yeah, I think they started out at 6 and then kind of quickly went up to 7 and now 8.
7?
They're basically at I think they're at 7-handed the most part, and then occasionally kind of going into 8. The 6-handed didn't last super long, mostly because the kind of poker community in Texas was like, yeah, we want to expand a little bit more. We're comfortable with going more players, doing bigger things. And, they've kind of been definitely not full tables, but certainly getting
there's space. There's
getting larger. Yeah. Starting out six-handed and then kind of, going from there. But it's the trouble times, right? It's the times where, you've got 2 5-handed games and the players want to go to a 10-handed table versus 2 small 5-handed games. And it's like you end up breaking both games because nobody wants to, you know what I mean? Like it's that weird limbo.
Nobody wants to play, but you can't really make it 10-handed.
That's the problem I see with this whole 6-handed nature is that games are just going to implode on themselves.
Right. There needs
when
to be
that
lists.
happens.
How are you going to have not a list that doesn't work?
Right. How are you going to have 2 4-handed games? Like they're just going to move to one table. Nobody's going to want to play 2.
They'll be like, all right, if it's got to be 6-handed, us 2 will sit out. Go make it 6-handed and we'll get on the list.
Get back on the list.
Which is
fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It is.
It is what it is.
For the room, but right now it's more about kind of the players and
a little bit of both and what the players are comfortable with, which is why I was saying like the state of Texas in general, they seem to be more comfortable and kind of going back to I don't know if I'm supposed to call it the old normal or the new normal or more normal than we were currently at. Just,
baby steps, right? I mean, we're
going back.
Yeah. I mean, if we're not going to be at full 9-handed games, and I mean, it's tough. There's kind of, you're trying to do the best of like following social distancing, but like at a table, like there's only so much distancing you can actually do and at a singular table. So, but I mean, as long as the people are, I'm sure they're all the players, and better than me because you talk to Mark down there all the time and Dave. But I mean, the players are definitely aware, right?
They are.
Like they're not just leaning over, eating food at the table, blah, 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 just like acting like it's normal 8 months ago time. Like they're walking into that place knowing it's going to be different, making the best of it. And, they're precautious of other people. I'm sure if they have to sneeze or cough because they got something in their throat, they're probably getting up from the table and doing it.
Right.
Whereas like before, it was just like, I'm just going to cough in my hand and touch my cards.
Do whatever I want. Yeah.
Right. And so there's at least the awareness of people that have to be, by nature, they can't be 6 feet apart at a poker table. It's just like the bottom line. But you do the best you can, and everybody, like adapts to the situation and realizes that, for their own safety and everybody else's safety, it's best just to take precautions. So there's at least, I feel like there's a lot of momentum going towards, being precautious at the table.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what we have to do, right? It's a difficult line for a poker room to kind of go on. It's the idea of, how much restriction do you put on players so that because you're kind of policing them on top of like, what are the players comfortable with? Because it's always a struggle back and forth. Like, I know when the first rooms opened up in Texas, they were doing mandatory masks and 6-handed, and there was a big backlash on players did not want that. They did not want to do it. They weren't going to do it. And then they kind of eased the restrictions. So they're going in Texas with, dealers and employees of the room are wearing masks, but the actual players, it's up to them. It's a kind
recommended,
but strongly encouraged. They are provided. If you want to have them, by all means, please wear them. But it is not something that is going to be forced. And I think that's kind of the culture in Texas. It's like, well, they don't want to be. And again, I would say probably 40% of the people are wearing masks, the players. It's their choice. It's a 60-40 split of yay to nay. Meaning 40% of them are wearing it and 60% are not. So it's just,
again, that's just Texas, though. You got to remember.
Absolutely. I'm taking a very bubble, and that's in Houston alone. It could be different somewhere else. That seems to be what they're comfortable with. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, when Chicago Charitable Games opens up and we see what happens there, I think the mask ratio and the public opinion on that's going to be significantly different.
Right. I think it would be like, even like, let's just say, we don't know what we're going to do. I'll probably, make everybody wear a mask, but let's just say we didn't, and it was just the same thing as Texas and said highly recommended, but not required. I think it would be like 80-20. Yes. Even without the, I think most of the people in the Chicagoland area
they would be a higher number.
For sure.
Of people being comfortable wearing the mask. And again, we're just guessing because, I mean, I put it out in the vlog a couple of days ago about what people thought some of these restrictions are. And we'll get into the other restrictions that other rooms are doing in general. And because Vegas is opening up soon and different things. But like I put out there, like, what do people want? And there was, you know, some decisions that people were very much against and others were kind of split. And even more people were like, I don't care what you do. There's just no chance I'm going to play.
Right. And there's probably vice versa.
Which is going to happen no matter what.
There's probably they're on the end of that spectrum. Though. There's probably like people that are out there like, dude, I just need to get back.
Right.
Like, tell me I have to be there in a hazmat suit. I will show up and want to play.
Yep.
So you're going to have a wide variety of, you know, I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. There's going to be people lined up out the door that need to play. There's going to be people that want to play, but they just are going to stay home. Like, no matter what set of guidelines you put out there, there's going to be both of those subsets of people.
And it's just, you know, and it's going to take time, and eventually, more and more people are going to move towards the being comfortable again. That's just what's going to happen. It's going to take time, and only time will tell. I mean, you know, the extreme side of the equation of people that don't want to go outside, they're just going to slowly start moving back towards going out because nobody can actually function by staying inside at all times.
Correct.
It's impossible.
I know. I have like a fine line of like, I go back and forth with myself all the time. Just like, man, I just got to go to a restaurant and do something. And it's just like I just need to get out of our house. And then I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to go to a restaurant right now. You know, it's this fine line of like figuring out what you're comfortable with. And I mean, I don't think that if the Horseshoe opened tomorrow, I would go play.
Right.
But I think if CCG opened tomorrow, I would pretty comfortable working.
Right.
You know, it's just like the difference of, you know, the situations and I don't want to be in a poker room with 180 people in the poker room, but if you have a 50-person CCG event with doors open and people, you know, adhering to distancing, like I was like, I can probably comfortably work that and be okay. But I mean, there's eventually a line drawn where like, okay, I'm okay in the 50-person CCG room and I'm not okay in a poker room at the Horseshoe. It's like, well, where's the line? Definitely, it's not sit inside anymore because we've done that for too long. So it's just like, you know, either slowly or, you know, more
floodgates.
Yeah, one of the two.
Doors.
Yeah. So
let's talk about some
Texas.
of the. Go ahead. Yeah.
What
so
else we got? Yeah,
Texas is open. Their restrictions are very small, if any. I think a lot of the rooms are even going back to just 9-handed full games. Basically, we're back to where we were in the middle of March. There is some extra stuff. You know, the new norm is still a lot more cleaning, a lot more sanitizing, a lot more players washing hands, but it's more along those lines of it's like the players' responsibilities and then the room's responsibility is to clean the tables more often, clean the chips more often, use new cards more often. So that way, those are the things that are changing to try to minimize the amounts. And again, we're not arguing which ones are right and which ones are wrong. That's just what is happening, right? They've kind of, they've stemmed away from masks and temperature checks and things of that nature. It's more of like a, you know, honor system type thing, which is good.
Can we make a note of the temperature checks? I don't know if what we're going to do at CCG, but temperature checks just kind of seem dumb to me. That's just my opinion.
So you're a pro no temperature taking.
I'm a pro no. My view is, especially if we're going to say the threshold's 100.4, anybody with over 100.4 ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Like they're not going anywhere, and I don't think that like Corona being spread by somebody with a temperature is like happening right now in America. Like, it doesn't matter if me and you walk in there and our temperature is 97.7. Like, we don't have it in the terms of temperature, but we could have it and spread it.
Doesn't help.
It's all about the asymptomatically.
Right. It doesn't help with the asymptomatic people. It doesn't help the people who have had it and they haven't really started to get symptoms yet. So like and again, we don't even really know. There's no studies that have been done. We have no idea if that's even how it spreads. Meaning like you cough, you have COVID, I inhale that COVID, now I have COVID. Is it like all of a sudden I take my temperature 20 minutes later and I've got a temperature, so I should be at home? Right? Like, am I a carrier at that point? Meaning if I just randomly cough because my throat is dry, I'm not even sick at this point. Am I spreading it? right? Like right. I don't know the answers to those. So I think it's
and the only the only information I have is 2 to 14 days incubation period. Well, that's such a wide range. That does us no good. 2 to 14 days. That's saying I could have got it last week at the grocery store and now gone through my entire week feeling great.
Right.
Like touched 100 people at what the first 30 people. Like we don't know any of the timeline. We don't know anything.
Right.
So to me, like a temperature is just so.
Well, that brings me. It's almost like the plexiglass around the table. I personally do not understand what that is going to help players with. It almost seems like it's something that they can do to try to make people feel better about going. It's just a feel good. It's just a feel safe thing. Like, I don't know if it actually provides any safety. It just makes you feel like it's safer, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like an annoying thing that's safer.
I would feel safer, but I don't know if it does anything.
Right. So it's funny.
Like, is it worth the investment to make people feel safer if they're not actually safer?
I mean, again, if you're a business owner trying to get people to come back to poker rooms, and it's not like, we're talking about, and it gets weird. We're not talking about casinos here. Like Bellagio has so many other things that if they say, you know what, we can open, but we're going to leave poker on the wayside because it's just a pain in the ass. We're not really sure what to do anyways. Just skip it. Leave it off the plate. Let's just deal with the slot machines and blackjack and things that are easier to contain where people don't seem to be focusing on, the focus on poker is that everybody's touching community cards, everybody's touching community chips, and the players are sitting very close together in a game where, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of socialism. There's a lot of socializing going on.
Socialism, poker.
There's actually very little of that. It's very much where, people are on top of each other. And I think that's where poker, in the gambling sense of the casinos reopening, it's like, that's such a difficult thing to get over, where they can't come up with a safe, very public way that the public is okay with, right? Like blackjack, you don't really touch the chips. You touch your own chips, but like, it's pretty simple. Like, they wouldn't be, you can say, well, players' chips that the casino wins, they're going to put on this side of the rack. And then when they pay out other players, they're paying them out with new chips, right? So like, the players are not actually going back and forth between the chips. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the it's the
poker,
player and the dealer.
Correct.
That's it.
And it's a one-way exchange where they're really not doing, it's far easier to control that. It's difficult and it's a pain, but it's something that realistically we could work on. Whereas in poker, I mean, that's damn near impossible. How are you going to play in a tournament and not get chips from any single person in the whole tournament? It's impossible. It's just never going to happen unless you're playing on an electronic table.
You can have chips from literally 30 or 40 or 50 different players that have touched the chips in your stack.
Right.
There's just nothing you can do about it. It's just, that's the nature of tournament poker.
Now, and the nice thing is the CDC, which I feel like nobody's talking about anymore. It's not part of the narrative because they've been changing the narrative. You and I talk about this a lot. The CDC is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like I can quote the CDC or talk about the CDC because they should be an expert in the realm of...
They should be a reputable source.
They should
if
be.
If they're not reputable, then
nobody is.
What is reputable?
Nobody is. So anyways, CDC is talking less about how they believe contact surfaces are not really the thing that we thought they were, correct?
Correct.
That you going to the grocery store and me coughing on the milk stand and then you going up to the milk stand is not really how people are getting COVID.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say corona anymore? Or am I supposed to say COVID?
So it's a coronavirus, but then COVID is the disease that you get from it?
All right. I did not know that.
COVID,
I knew that, but I wasn't sure that's how it worked. Go ahead.
I think so. I couldn't really come up with another example of something that happens when...
That's all right. But the CDC has come out saying that they're less concerned about this contact and more concerned about people coughing and sneezing and breathing in the virus versus picking up the virus from an inanimate object.
Yes.
So the way that pertains to poker, which I think is a good thing, is that if we are less concerned about the touching aspect and more concerned about the coughing aspect, that's far easier to contain.
It is, because for me personally, I'm not really worried about touching everybody else's chips in the cards.
Mm-mm.
Because so much has to go wrong for you to get the actual virus from these 40 chips I have in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it involves
40. I've seen you play.
40 black chips. They basically so much as first of all, somebody at the table has to be infected.
Right.
Then they have to touch their face, which they're trying not to / has a mask on.
Correct.
And get it onto their hands. Then over into the chips, into my stack, me be playing with the chips, me touch my face,
right.
It have enough on there to have enough infectious viral load, because there's so much where like, dude, it could have corona on your fingertip and you pick your nose and they're like, there's just not be enough corona to infect you. Right. You're like, your body just fights it off before it gets moving.
It's
running.
not enough, right?
So a lot of stuff, really, especially with people taking.
Well, and we forgot one other thing too in there, that the person who is infected has to be within that very early stages where they don't know they're infected and they're not showing any signs, or they're asymptomatic, in which case it is what it is. But I mean, there's another level to it as well. There's so many things that have to perfectly play out. Whereas before, we were kind of sold this theory of, you just be walking down the street and you get shot with the COVID virus by like an invisible sniper of virus snipers,
right?
Lee Harvey Oswald style,
Plus, it has the virus is a half-life of 8 hours, so every 8 hours it gets cut in half. So I mean, even if somebody coughed on that chip at 2, if you're touching it at 10, there's half as much virus on there as there was when somebody touched it at 2.
Right.
And, if you clean them or the next day or 2 days goes by, it's not like this thing's live forever.
Right.
I mean, they scared us so much and said, it can live up to 3 days. That was in like a perfect lab setting.
Correct.
With like the perfect temperature and humidity and no wind and everything.
That's like trying to
make it last as long as
incubate
possible.
the device. It's like giving it the perfect environment at that point. But yeah, I think the whole way this kind of applies to live poker is that I believe that some of the things that we're worried about, the touching of the cards and the touching of the chips, which is where these plexiglass things come in as well. It's like, in thermometer checks, it's like, I don't know if those things are really picking up what we need to. If people are just smart and kind of go back to what we did in the beginning, wash your hands, keep your hands away from your face, keep your hands out of your mouth, don't pick your nose, easy stuff. And then you throw on top of it, if the idea here is that people are going to be able to wear masks, I think the likelihood of having larger gatherings, interactions, events, poker tournaments, concerts, bigger scale things, going to bars, it's not as bad as what we thought it was. At least that's what some experts are saying. You and I are not experts in diseases in any sense or form.
I'm like basically getting there, though. At this point, 4 months into quarantine, I've probably read more these last 4 months than since I left college.
Which is a silver lining. That's good.
Which
reading
8
more
years ago. But I mean, for me, it's just the mask. It's kind of scary to think that you can have a conversation with somebody and then feel fine. And if you have a 20-minute face-to-face conversation, that the air and it's staying in the air and that kind of stuff, where the room's not ventilated as much, but high ceilings help and airflow helps and all these little factors that it's like you realize it's not really about the fact that 40 people are touching a poker chip, and it could all be about people wearing a mask or the windows being open and the doors being open. Is kind of crazy how we've progressed from. When a poker room's closed, everyone's like, dude, of course, casinos and poker rooms are the most disgusting places ever because everyone touches the chips and cards and touches everything, and it's gross and touching germs. And it's really not about that. Somehow this virus has turned into like, don't have a 20-minute conversation face to face with somebody and you're fine.
And not to be the naysayer here. I mean, good Lord, in 2 months from now, they might change that as well. Like, it's an ever-changing, constantly moving thing with several experts talking about it and giving us different, opinions and different. It's very difficult to know what to think. I honestly, at some point, my head wants to explode because I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm so over it at this point, just in general. And I don't mean I'm giving up or I don't know what to do or I'm thinking I'm not taking this seriously. Clearly, we are taking this very seriously. It's so much. I need a little break. I don't know how to get that, but I need a break.
Go ahead. Let's go to Florida.
Let's go to Florida in the sense of, let's talk about where poker has opened and kind of the not the review, but I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for here? What kind of turnouts did they get in Florida when the Florida rooms opened this month?
Oh, yeah. So we had, which one was it? The Seminole Hard Rock in Tampa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a few of them. There's one in Hollywood, and there's Hollywood, Florida. So that Seminole Hard Rock in Tampa opened with they have 18 tables, 36 tables. It's a big room.
18 to 20 is, I think.
Let me look it up. I'm looking it up right now. 46 tables.
Jesus.
They had half capacity open. So they had 20, I think they might have 22 tables or 23 tables or 20 tables open. They had 20 full 6 max tables with 106 on the list 2 hours after they opened on opening day, which was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Middle of May 18th or something like that, May 15th. So it's safe to say that the people were ready to come back and play. Now they did the same thing. They did not do mandatory masks. They only went 6-handed. They've been pretty strict about that.
Yep.
They opened every other table. So, there's only, 7 people within anywhere close to each other in the room, which spaces it out nicely. Which, again, I think another kind of side point, but the poker rooms aren't, so much trying to protect one person giving it from another person. Because, one person having it asymptomatically and giving it to one other person, I'm not going to say is likely, but it's definitely in the realm of possibilities. I think that this 18-table poker room is trying to make it so if one asymptomatic person walks in there, there's not an outbreak of 60 people that get it.
Correct. And then those 60 people go out and talk to another, it's a huge stem.
It's right. So just, I like to think that, people are like, oh, well, there's still 6 people sitting next to each other at the table. Well, these players know the risk. They understand. They're wearing masks and taking precautions. If one person asymptomatically has it and gives it to 1 or 2 people, those people are now going to be responsibly, probably, and not necessarily quarantining, but they're going to be more careful. And then, if they come down with symptoms, those 2 people are going to get it and probably maybe give it to 1 or 2 more family member. Now we have 1 person who gave it to 4 total people, and the chain kind of stopped there. And yeah, obviously that sucks. And, I don't wish the disease on anybody, but that's a huge win compared to smashing these poker rooms with players. You could have 30, 40, 50 players within 15 feet of each other, at CCG. And if we're jamming tables into Warrenville for a stack day,
right?
You could say that one person could literally give it to 50 people.
Right.
And so, these, containing it to 2 people compared to 50, and then the next spread and the next spread turns into saving thousands and thousands of cases. So I like that they opened every other table and the demand was there. I don't really know what they were doing with the 106 people on the list to keep them distanced. Probably
outside.
Hang out in the casino, hang out in the...
And it could have been a call-in list, too. We're not quite sure if it was a full...
106 live players.
Right,
sure
yeah. Because, anytime you go to the Horseshoe and the list is 60 people deep, there's probably only 20 to 25 live players, and the rest are call-ins. They're eventually going to be there.
And there's only 5 standing over there in the front entrance. Right. There's 6 in the bar, 4 playing blackjack, 2 eating. It's whenever I'm waiting on the list, especially when I'm there with your sister, we go to the bar or we go eat.
Right.
And
you walk away, go play the slots. Yeah. That's what they want you to do. It's sometimes why the rooms don't open up more tables is because, they love to have a 40-person list. It keeps the games running full all the time, and those 40 people theoretically should be playing other things, which is also a bonus.
They're spending money elsewhere.
So Texas, pretty successful opening. Florida, extremely successful opening. California, still not open. I'm thinking massive poker areas. Obviously, Vegas isn't open, but today is June 1st when we're recording. And actually, I think the first poker rooms are supposed to be opening on the 3rd or the 4th, which is when this episode drops on Wednesday or Thursday. Did you like my industry slang I just threw in there?
Loved it.
Yep. And, they're going to be reopening on that first week of June, that 3rd, 4th, 5th is when the Venetian is opening up. Now, Vegas is still very much going towards the 4-handed poker rooms. But I did read that Venetian is opening and they are going to do the 4-person tables.
Yeah, they're gonna do. I saw they're gonna do 4-person 100-man sit and goes on demand,
which I think is an awesome thing to do. I think it's super
almost
cool.
Like winner take all. It's it's almost like a spin and go online.
Yeah, it's a cool. I think that is something that could actually stick in the poker world, where we're kind of forced to do it right now. Like nobody has any options. But I feel like once people play in those four person, we're not supposed to say four man events, 4-person events, 4-person sit and goes. I think that's cool as shit. I would love to play that.
Especially when they're fast. I mean, fast forward to a tournament where it's like all the money's up top and you're down to the final 4 and everybody's even in chips. Go.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting a 4-person tournament and have $120 buy-in, $20 goes to the casino, $100. So I'm playing for $400. I'm going to 4x my money, and it could happen inside of, how long is a 4-person final table going to take?
No, I mean, they should be
an hour,
maybe an hour and a half at the longest.
Drag it out a little bit because if you actually start with like a relatively good structure, like if you're getting. Yeah. What do you think we should do? I wonder what the structure is going to be like on those. Like, are they going to have like 5K in chips, 10K in chips, 2K in chips? Like, I wonder
just
where.
Off the top of my head, I would say like 5K in chips, start 25, 50, 6-minute levels.
6-minute levels.
Is that too slow or too fast?
I love fast levels because I am not a patient player. I am a rip it and go player. So
you got to remember, there's 100. I mean, if you're starting at 25, 50, that's 100 big blinds. I mean, maybe they'll start at 100, then maybe you can go 8-minute levels. Because then you're only starting with 50 big blinds. Because you got to, structure it out. 10 levels only gets you to, 10 levels will get you an hour into the tournament, and then you'll be at 500, 1,000, which would be 5 big blinds each, I guess, only. So assuming you're down to heads up, that's 10 big blinds each after an hour in. That seems pretty.
Yeah, it seems pretty legit.
It's fast, but it's not like
right because it's a balance. You want it to be quick, but yet you don't want it to be too quick where people
turbo
don't want to play.
Where everyone's all in.
But anyways, the whole point of that is I think it's a really good structure. I think it's a great kind of tournament. I think it's something that you could draw more players in even without the restrictions that they're going to have. So I like it when they come up with a plan that's a good plan for kind of a shitty situation, because this is a shitty situation.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I'm on the Venetian website, and I cannot for the life of me. They have not put anything out there since March 30th. Like, what are you doing, guys? Like, how am I supposed to know? Follow us on Twitter, I guess, is where I could go. But it just seems like they should be updating stuff.
Right. How I'm not booking a room for you for June 4th and June 5th if you haven't posted anything since March 30th.
Seems odd. But anyways, so Vegas is reopening.
Vegas is going 4-handed, pretty strict. I mean, that's what the gaming board says they have to do.
Yeah, it's not by choice. I mean, that's what they're telling them. I think
it's because Vegas has so much there. Well, like you said with the Bellagio, it's like there's so much other stuff they have to worry about that, like poker, they can kind of just put it on the back burner, say, hey, you want to play 4-handed, go for it. If not, we're waiting till the next phase 2 or 3 or 4 of our opening to get poker back ramped up. They got, poker is probably one of the lower revenue streams that they have to worry about.
Not lower, lowest.
For sure. I mean, is there anything that's
disappointed that the Venetian has not put anything out on their. They haven't put anything out on Twitter since April 27th. Huh. And that was just to cancel the Venetian Deep Stacks, the Deep Stack Championship Poker Series, which runs, with the WSOP. Yeah.
So right now it's supposed to just be absolutely a bloodbath in Vegas right now. Just WSOP in full swing. Daniel Negreanu vlogs.
Yep, I missed the vlogs.
Venetian Deep Stacks. People on vacation, and they ain't even open yet, which is crazy. I thought that they were going to open sooner than they did, but really speaks to how serious it is if they can have to stay closed from March 20th to June. So I think MGM's opening, Bellagio's opening, Venetian's opening. There's another big one. There's a Wynn, maybe. I don't know. The big, like basically the biggest stuff is staying. I think Circus and some of the smaller stuff
won't be opening.
Each company's like second tier and third tier hotels are going to stay closed, and they're just going to concentrate on the first ones, see how it goes. But definitely a stricter the most strict poker policy is in Vegas, and I think it's simply just because they have so much other stuff to worry about. Whereas if you reverse to Florida, they're a little bit more lax, and then if you reverse to Texas, they're the most lax. But really, Texas, there's no casinos, right? So
no
these
casinos.
Poker rooms they're fully figuring out poker and poker only, where you get to Florida and it's part of a casino, but it's an isolated casino on an Indian reservation. And you get to Vegas and it's a full-blown casino atmosphere. So you kind of get the more other activities and stuff going on, the more poker gets put on the back burner, which is fine. I mean, can we skip to our home state now?
Well, I was going to say, let's do one or two other things, because like Indiana opening, no poker. Where else did I say? Pennsylvania opening, no poker. Maryland Live, I think, is opening up sometime soon. If they have not opened already, they are opening up soon. But we could talk about Illinois.
Interesting to see what the East Coast does, because the East Coast is like, they're ahead of the rest of the country in terms of recovery. And they had their huge spike.
They got hit harder earlier. Right.
And now they're lower, and they are pretty much. It's not even anywhere near as relevant as it is in the East Coast as it is now into the Midwest, because
we're just getting hit later.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because whatever the precedents that they set might be the precedents that we follow a month from now, when a month after they've been open and now it's our turn to open and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if Maryland Live, what they do, because that's pretty much the biggest room out there now, right?
I would say Maryland Live's got to be the biggest room on the East Coast right now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because Atlantic City's kind of there's more.
Yeah, Maryland Live is definitely the poker wise, at least. I'm not going by. I'm just talking specifically about poker.
Yeah,
I would say those would definitely be those.
So quickly, I got the Bravo pulled up.
Okay.
Florida Poker, Oxford Downs Poker Room, 12 games. Their normal poker room has 29 tables. So they're a little bit less than half capacity, which is probably almost full capacity for them.
Yeah.
Daytona Beach, welcome back, poker players. Our poker room is now open, 7-handed poker. All guests have their temperature checked. All guests wear a protective mask. Masks will be provided if you need one. We will implement reduced players at each table and reduced number of tables. So they're going 7-handed. It's a 20-table poker room. They have 9 tables full. So again, if they're going half capacity, almost full capacity. Orange City Poker, which is a race. It's like a dog track, I think. Same thing. I think it's probably the same owners, because I got the same email. 7-handed. And then they have 11 tables running. And then Hard Rock in Tampa, the one that was Crazy Town, 46 tables. They currently have 14 games running.
Wow.
6-handed. So there is 60 cash games running in Florida right now on the Bravo.
Yeah, I was looking at the Texas side of things and trying to check the two biggest clubs. The biggest club, which normally they have 9 or 10 games going, is kind of their running total. I would say not, slow day would be 6 games. Really busy game would be like 15 tables. It's like a 20-something table room. Right now at 1:45 on a Monday, they've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games with every single game on a list. So like they got 3 1-3 games going, 5 on the list. They got 2 1-3 PLO games going, 6 on the list. 5-5 PLO, 2 of those games going, 1 on the list. They also have a 5-5 no limit waiting list with 4 people, which means they'll probably start that game soon. Damn, look at this game. 2-3 PLO with Rock. What a great game.
$10 Rock or what?
I don't know. I want to know what that is, because that seems like an awesome game to play. And we should get into like variants of Omaha. Maybe that'll be episode 15, because there are so many different variants of the game of Omaha, because what Omaha needs is more variants to increase action. But we'll get that on episode 14.
I got a story when I went to Europe about that.
We'll save that for the next episode. So little teaser from Brando. But I think overall the state of live poker in just the United States in general I think it's recuperating really, really well. I think it's difficult to kind of understand that you've got 50 different states and 50 different rules on what can open, when it can open, and how it can open. So there's no track record here that we can go off of. This is all new stuff. This is undocumented territory. Is that the right wording? Uncharted territory. I like uncharted. This is uncharted space. We've never been here before. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's right. We don't know if it's too safe, not safe enough, if it should just not even be an option. We have no idea. You get Texas, which is basically no limitations, except unless the players want to take it upon themselves to do it, all the way up to like Maryland and Las Vegas, which seems to be opening with mandatory masks, mandatory plexiglass, things of that nature, spacing out of the rooms, which I think everybody's kind of doing in general. But it's very interesting to see how things go and kind of what progresses from here, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that we're going to come out and see in the next couple months who's right and who's wrong, and if Texas stays completely safe and good for the next 2 months, maybe that will cause other places to say, wow, well, I mean, we really don't need to be four-handed if Texas is nine-handed and nothing's happening. So there's a lot of different, I think there's a lot of different, trials out there right now, which is kind of, I'm trying to think of the silver lining of good reasons for us to stay closed and not stay closed, but trying to look at the positive side of things that, we ain't going to have poker events at least for another month. I mean, 3-4 weeks at the very earliest that we can get into stage 4. So we
24 days, which would be, when do we go to phase 3? May 29th?
Uh-huh.
So what is, for Illinois, what would
that'd be like June 21st, about June 21st.
Is that?
So that's 3 weeks from today.
It's 28 days, I thought, is what they were 28 doing. Days. Yeah, it's 28.
Okay, I thought you said 21. I live in Indiana. We're open. So
you're open.
I don't know what's going on. So 28 days, that's what, June 24th. So
which is what they were saying, the earliest possibly, which is a Wednesday. That would be 1, 2. It's about 3 weeks from now. It's 3 weeks from 1, 2, 3. It's 3 weeks from tomorrow, Wednesday. Whenever this episode comes out on June 3rd, it would be 3 weeks from that day is theoretically when we could reopen. Again, this is all state regulated. We have no idea for CCG if that's even a possibility, if they're going to issue licenses, if they're not going to issue licenses. We have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody even to call yet. It's just no idea. See
but
what
I think
happens.
one of the advantage we have is that we can kind of see how all these places shake out.
Right.
And we definitely know there's demand for poker because you got to remember, this is June. Besides, I mean, I know it's kind of a different bubble.
This is the dead time.
This is the dead time. And now I know that all the local players would be in Vegas playing, which makes all the local rooms dead, and they're not. So that kind of will give a
false positive. Right.
Right. But the fact that, just the fact that we've recovered this much this quickly is good in general.
It's a good
because,
sign.
I mean, there was a time in the middle of April where we were just like, I wonder if we're going to have CCG again this year.
Right.
And clearly we've seen that poker is possible. And, even when we asked those days early on in the pandemic, we asked poker, the people on Facebook, I think it was your day 20 something. They were like, guess what day CCG is going to be back?
Oh man, that's crazy.
And there was people, and I remember I said May 15th. Right. But there was people that, were saying...
And you thought that was conservative, like you were going on the safe side to say May 15th.
Right. And then there was people that are like, poker 6 months maybe after this whole thing's over.
Right.
A year. And, it's just, you realize now that the doom and gloom of poker never coming back is kind of a thing in the past.
Yep.
Arizona Talking Stick is opening today.
Nice.
So it will be interesting to see what they're doing. Poker is still closed for the phase 1, but the phase 1 is only a 7-day period.
So it's a week.
I think that poker is going to come back next week in Arizona.
Nice.
So things are happening. Compared, I should go back and listen to our COVID part 2 and see how doom and gloom we sounded, because I think that
the first episode
made some strides.
The first episode, which was the State of Live Poker, just the OG, the first one, that's our most popular episode. I'm looking at the stats right now. That's our most popular episode. And then the part 2 is, it's up there.
It's up there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if more people listen to the first episode, so if that's like a skewed, stat, but it is what it is. But I mean, as always, thank you for listening to us. I think, did we want to talk about online poker? Or I guess it's live poker. So I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, online's kind of petering out a little bit. I mean,
people are burning through that. It's not as much fun. You realize how much you miss live poker when you restrict yourself to playing online for 2 months, going on 3.
Yeah, now I'm to the point where I'm just like, I'm gonna wait for live. I don't even want to play online anymore.
Right.
I've burned through it. It was great at the beginning. It's like, oh, this is a nice substitute.
Right.
But eventually you realize that the factory peanut butter isn't as good as the chunky jiffy that you put with the strawberry preserves and make a peanut butter jelly, and you want the full fat peanut butter.
I don't know if this is going to be on it, but remember, our number one fan said live poker to online poker is like, boy, how do I say this without being too bad? It's like choosing a sex toy or the real thing. Which would you prefer? Sex toy being online and the real thing being live poker. Like, there's just no substitute for the real thing. And I think that's true. I mean, it's funny and kind of weird to think about, but live poker is its own game. It's a different game. There's just so many different things that go on, and I enjoy so much more. And again, some of those things are a little scary now with the state of what we're in. But I think all in all, live poker, we are proving with some of these states opening earlier than others, Illinois being last, I think we're seeing a good turnout. People are not afraid. People want to go out. People want to experience live poker again. It's what they want. Give the people what they want, folks.
Give the people what they want.
Yep. We're at 46 minutes, so we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Overlay of Poker podcast. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave us a review and a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to this podcast. Brandon, you got anything to wrap it up today?
We never said our Twitter handle. What is it? @the_overlay?
No. Try again.
Darn.
Give you 3 tries.
Oh boy. That's
you got all the pieces. You just don't know where they're at. No, you're closer. I mean, it definitely starts with @.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't start @_. I don't even think that's a possibility.
I know. Well, the underscore can only be in a few spots.
Right. 3. Go ahead.
Oh, the overlay _
There you
pod?
go. You got it. @the overlay _ pod. POD.
Boom.
And
you might be busting out that new logo because
I do have a new logo, which is kind of cool.
Great.
We're going to come out with season 2 here eventually. I don't really know when the switcheroo is going to be. Probably season 2 is going to start when we get out of quarantine and you and I are back to normal, doing this face to face, which will be good. But as always, thank you very much for listening and supporting us. We cannot say thank you enough to everyone, and we very much hope to see you soon. Literally, I hope to see everyone who listens to this
even
extremely
the players
soon.
Even the players I despise. I cannot wait to see your face.
Even I can't even say names because I don't want to. Even that old guy that drives me nuts and always busts balls about when the $20 early bird's going to start, and I want to punch him.
With the glasses?
Yeah, you know who he is. You know who you are out there. He's not listening to podcasts. The guy's like 100. Hey, what time are you starting at? 20. 2 o'clock, sir. Yeah, right.
It's 2:09.
Okay, it starts at 2:10 every day. Like, it's never more than 10 minutes off. It's never earlier than that. It happens one time a year at Black Friday where it literally pings off at like 2 o'clock. Other than that, it's at 2:10, guys. Like, what do you want from me? Get here early.
If you guys showed up at 1:50,
right,
I could start at 2.
Right.
But when you show up at 2:04,
you can't start at 2. Right. It's a no-win situation. As always, thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Brandon, have you come up with a tagline yet?
No.
Yeah, me neither. See you guys soon.
I like Welcome Back America because we're back.
I'm going to go with give the people what they want.
What they want. I like that too.
All right. I'll talk to you later.